right, thanks again for coming. I really appreciate the audience that we have today. It looks like they had to double the amount of people that we were serving, so we had a really huge interest in the topic, so hopefully I'll be able to answer some of your questions. I'm going to kind of be juggling back and forth because I'm going to use my note cards a little bit so I don't forget anything, so hopefully that won't interrupt us too much. But today we're going to be talking about surviving and thriving with cancer, and we're going to talk about this specifically as a fitness and wellness perspective. So let's go ahead and get started. So the basics. I just first of all wanted to present what cancer actually is. And cancer is the abnormal regulation of cell growth and reproduction. So I have a nice visual here, a diagram of a normal cell division and cancer cell division, so I'll try to use my pointer. And as you can see, with a normal cell, you start with a healthy cell, and what happens is that cell divides into two identical daughter cells. So this cell kind of goes away and splits into two identical daughter cells. And sometimes an injured cell can occur during this process, and you have a complex signaling system in your body called the RB pathway. And this RB pathway tells a cell when to start growing, when to start dividing, and when to stop as well. So sometimes when we have an injured cell, the RB pathway says something's not right, we're going to have to destroy that cell. So you can see that here, it's called apoptosis. So it sends some destroyers to go take care of that cell. And what happens in cancer is the same thing, basically. A healthy cell starts to divide into two cells, and either a carcinogen attacks one of the daughter cells, or a gene is expressed within that cell to kind of cause this cancer cell to occur. And instead of the RB pathway sending this signal and telling it to be destroyed, the cell doesn't listen. It doesn't want to hear that it needs to be destroyed, so it continues dividing. And creating, again, identical cells, but unfortunately this time they're identical cancer cells. So more and more cells are kind of reproduced here, and that mass of cells is called a tumor, which we're all unfortunately very familiar with. And so there's other abnormalities that a cancer cell has as well. Besides the fact that it can't be controlled by this RB pathway, it also has less structure than a typical cell, so it has less differentiation. So a less structured cell means that you can't really tell where it begins and where it ends. So they kind of turn into this blob, right? This is the heavy stuff, by the way. We'll get past all this in a second. I just want to introduce this first. So a cancer cell is a blob. It's not a skin cell, it's not a liver cell, it's just cancer. It also has decreased drug sensitivity, which is why we have to use such powerful drugs to kind of destroy the cells. And it can metastasize, meaning it can move throughout the body and spread to other organs. So unlike a typical cell, like a skin cell, you're not going to find a skin cell in your liver, for instance. But unfortunately, a cancer cell can spread from your skin to your lymph nodes and things like that. Okay, so that's the heavy stuff. There's three basic treatments. There are a number of treatments, but the three big ones that I'm sure many of you are familiar with are surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. And I also wanted to touch on those really quick to talk about what those treatments can cause. Can cause other effects in your body. So surgery, we all know, removes that tumor cell. It removes the tumor from your body, but unfortunately it takes more than just those cancer cells. It can also take some normal cells along with that. Radiation is the use of radioactive photons, which are basically rays, so X-rays or gamma rays, or particles to destroy cancer cells. And again, we can pinpoint a specific area, but unfortunately there's going to be healthy cells that get destroyed as well. And then chemotherapy is anti-tumor drugs that are infused in the body. And again, these go throughout your entire system, so they're going to damage more than just those cancer cells. Okay, that's out of the way. So let's talk about how cancer and its treatment affects us. So there's 5 basic body systems that I wanted to cover. Your cardiovascular system, pulmonary, neurological, gastrointestinal, and musculoskeletal. So your cardiovascular system is basically made up of your heart and your veins, so your heart and your vascular. And treatment can cause direct damage to your heart It can cause inflammation to the sac surrounding your heart, and it can cause an inflammatory response of your vascular, or your veins and your arteries as well. So it can have a direct impact on your heart and those structures, which basically means that your heart isn't able to work as effectively. So it's not going to be able to pump the oxygen and the nutrients that the rest of your body needs as well as it was before. Your pulmonary system then are your lungs and your breathing structures. And your pulmonary system is affected by abnormal development of your pulmonary tissues, and also pulmonary fibrosis. And fibrosis is basically saying that those tissues aren't as flexible. So your lungs' job is to transfer oxygen and carbon dioxide. So it tries to take out the carbon dioxide, and it wants to infuse oxygen into your blood. And when these structures are stiff and not as flexible, unfortunately that process is affected, and we're not able to increase our oxygen levels and decrease our carbon dioxide levels as well. And that can cause some shortness of breath as well. Neurological systems can be affected. It's basically your central nervous system, and this causes a decrease in coordination and balance, as well as some neuropathies. So a lot of us experience neuropathies after cancer treatments, which are basically numbness and tingling in your extremities, so fingers and toes mostly are affected. And then gastrointestinal can also be affected. Your vascular and connective tissue can be injured. You can have intestinal fibrosis as well. So again, your intestines are designed to absorb some of those nutrients that you have taken in. And when there's that stiffening, it's not able to absorb as many nutrients. You can also have intestinal motility, which is a fancy way of saying you can have diarrhea. And unfortunately, when things are moving through quicker, again, you're not able to absorb the nutrients and the electrolytes and the fluids that your body needs. And you can also have an altered metabolism, which just means that your body isn't as efficient in making energy. And finally, the musculoskeletal system can be affected. Bone marrow can be disturbed. You can lose some muscle integrity and have muscle degeneration. And this basically is muscle weakness, right? We've all experienced some muscle weakness from time to time. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that all of these systems can lead to fatigue. So if our body has to work harder, it's not as efficient, we're going to get tired. And your body is a big organ, a big system that all works together, and when one thing isn't working properly, it has to borrow from other systems, and it's a cycle. So we get stuck in that fatigue cycle. So that's the bad news. But I have some good news. So we have tools that we can use to fight these effects. This is my sense of humor coming out a little bit here, so I'm sorry if it's not funny. But exercise is one tool, nutrition, and finally wellness and POW. There it goes. You can laugh if you want. Okay, so we'll start with exercise. So how can exercise help with these effects? Well, let's start again with the cardiovascular system. And we all know that the heart is basically a big muscle, right? It's a muscle. So if we know that exercise strengthens muscles, we can assume that then it strengthens the heart. So that's good news, right, for us. And it also increases our blood cell production. So there's more of those cells to carry those oxygen and nutrients throughout our system. Again, it strengthens muscles, so our muscle integrity is improved, and also exercise actually produces hormones that stimulate muscle cell growth and development, so that's good news. And also, I didn't really talk about pulmonary on the slide, but pulmonary function is increased as well because that diffusion process is assisted by exercise. So getting that oxygen back into our bloodstream and the carbon dioxide out is affected as well. And those intercostal muscles between our rib cage and surrounding our rib cage also help increase our lung capacity because we're able to force that expiration out and increase our lung capacity when we breathe in. The gastrointestinal system here again, we can improve our metabolism and increase our appetite through exercise. And we can also, next slide, or next thing. We can also improve our coordination and balance through exercise. So a lot of good things come from this. And then we didn't talk about psychological aspects of cancer, but obviously those are a problem as well, and exercise produces endorphins called dopamine that can reduce anxiety and depression. So we know now that exercise helps, right? There's no question about that. But how can we get the most out of an exercise program? And the first thing I'd like to talk about is goal setting. And goals are basically a roadmap on where you want to go and how you're going to get there. So by setting goals, it draws a map of how we're going to accomplish those. They should be measurable and they should be realistic. So if I'm not able to walk up the stairs without becoming extremely short of breath, I shouldn't set my goal at running 3 miles per day, right? Also, it should be measurable in that losing weight really isn't a goal. Losing weight is a result of action, so it should be action specific. So if I want to lose weight, my goal might be to cut out sweets out of my diet or to limit myself to 2 desserts a week, which would be a big limit for me. Or increase my exercise to 3 times a day, or 3 times a week, instead of 2 times a week. Those are specific goals. It should also be individualized. So unfortunately, there's no cookie cutter program that works for everyone. Exercise has to meet what you like, what you enjoy doing, so that you can continue to do it. We're not motivated if we don't like to jog to go for a jog, but if we really enjoy gardening, that can be a great form of exercise. So make sure that it's an individualized programming. And if you're going to a gym and you're working with a personal trainer, make sure that you have input on what's going on as well. It's your exercise program. The trainer should be encouraging you to come up with goals for yourself and then incorporate those into that exercise prescription. It should be well-rounded, so you're not sticking with only doing cardiovascular exercise or only pumping iron 3 times a week, but it should be well-rounded. So you're doing the cardiovascular fitness, which is like an aerobic activity. You should be doing some muscle endurance and muscle strength exercises. So muscle endurance is how many times you can lift something. Muscle strength is the amount of weight you can lift, right? So you should be doing both of those. Also balance and coordination. So especially as we become older, we really want to focus on the balance aspects because falls are extremely important to try to avoid. So balance and coordination are 2 other key components. You should be measuring your improvement because it really is a motivating factor. If it takes you 5 minutes to walk to the mailbox the first day and that's your goal, then in 2 weeks, you should hopefully be measuring it and seeing an improvement. So maybe 2 weeks later, you've been walking to the mailbox 4 times a week, and now it takes you 4 minutes and 45 seconds. That's an improvement and a big one. So we should be measuring that so we can continue to motivate ourselves to continue. And again, if you're going to a gym, make sure that they're empowering you with the tools. Unfortunately, it's not realistic to expect that we can go to a gym and somebody can help us with exercise for the rest of our lives. They should be giving you tools and exercises that you can do at home so that you can continue that on your own. Okay, nutrition is the next tool that we can use to fight. And I forgot to say the CDC recommendations. So the CDC, back to exercise before I move on. The CDC recommends that you do 150 minutes of exercise per week, and also that you have 2 or more days of muscle strengthening exercises. Now 150 minutes a week sounds like a lot, but you can do this in 10-minute segments. If you exercise 3 times a day for 10 minutes, that can add up to your 150 minutes. And it's moderate aerobic activity, so moderate can be distinguished by how hard you're breathing. You can do a talk test. So you can talk to other people or talk to yourself. If you're able to maintain that conversation, then you're exercising at a moderate level. Or if you like scales, 0 being no exertion and 10 being as hard as you can possibly work without falling over, then you want to be exercising on a 3 to 5. So moderate aerobic activity. And aerobic activity is anything that gets your heart pumping, starts to make you a little short of breath, and gets you to perspire or sweat just a little bit. And then 2 or more days of muscle strengthening. You should be working all body parts, so all major muscle groups. Arms, legs, back, shoulders, abs, everything, 2 or more days a week. And they don't say how much time, so a little bit counts. Don't want to push that again. So nutrition. Nutrition can be defined as a 3-part process. And the first part is up to you, and we did a really great job of doing this first part today, and that's just taking in food and drinks. So we're putting food into our body. That's the first step. That's the easy step for all of us to do, right? The second step is that your body breaks down the food into nutrients. And the third step is that your body carries these nutrients through the bloodstream to offer fuel and building blocks for your vital organs. And nutrition is extremely important for cancer survivors because it helps us heal and recover faster. It also helps us tolerate some of those treatment effects that we talked about earlier. It lowers the risk of infection. We didn't really talk about immunity in cancer survivors, but when we're going through treatment, our immune systems suffer a little bit as well, so it lowers your risk of even having that infection to worry about, our immune system. It provides strength and energy, and it decreases our risk of recurrence. There's a lot of stress on the relationship between diet and cancer lately, so it decreases that risk. So what are the recommendations? The American Cancer Society says that we should encourage antioxidants, and antioxidants are found mostly in fruits and vegetables, and they help prevent damage in cells. So you can see why it's important if we remember back to that first slide of what is cancer. This helps prevent some of that damage that can occur in cells. So antioxidants are found in vitamin C, E, carotenoids, and phytochemicals. And carotenoids are those compounds that create color in vegetables and fruits. So when they're asking you to eat a diverse array of colors in your fruits and vegetables, that's one of the reasons why. And then phytochemicals are, again, plant-based chemicals. So you can see fruits and vegetables, which is a good segue here, fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are a huge part of our diet. And the American Cancer Society recommends 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables per day. And the serving size is about a medium-sized apple, or that amount of fruit and vegetables. Another recommendation is fiber, and fiber assists in our digestive process. It helps move food waste quickly through the body. And we want to focus on soluble fibers, things like oat brands and whole grains, versus the insoluble fibers, which is like wheat products. Now, fiber is important, so how you get it doesn't really matter, just get it. But if you can choose those soluble fibers over the insoluble. And other sources can be, if I can look at my notes, sorry, beans, fruits, and vegetables are other sources of fiber. Protein helps the body to use and repair muscles, bones, skin, and blood. So protein is another important thing in our diet. It keeps our immune systems healthy. So again, we've talked about stressing the importance of a healthy immune system when you're going through treatment and afterwards. And it can be found in lean meats, fish, poultry, dairy products, nuts, peas, soy, and lentils. Lots of sources of protein. And carbohydrates are kind of given a bad rap, right? We're told that they're not great for us, but really it's the source of your carbohydrate that's important. And carbohydrates are a major source of energy, so they are important that we get them into our diet. They provide fuel for physical activity and organ function. So we want to get our carbohydrates from sources like, again, fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, but also we can get that through breads, potatoes, cereals, pastas, and beans. The area we want to avoid are those high-calorie sweets that don't offer the nutritional value that the others do, but they give us a lot of calories. That's what we want to avoid. And then finally, water. You can't stress water enough, right? It's big in the media right now. But we want water and other fluids. We want to have 8-ounce servings of water per day. Our entire body is made up mostly of water, and in order to keep our cells balanced, we should be intaking a lot of water. 8 ounces a day. How much is your bottle of water right now? Isn't that about 8 ounces? 12. See, so you've already got 1.5 servings. It's not that hard. And don't forget that when you're taking coffee and things like that, they do allow that to count now, but don't forget that that also has some dehydrating factors, so you want to kind of counteract that. Okay, so now we know what to eat. What should we avoid? Here's what we should avoid. Alcohol has been linked to some types of cancer, so it's recommended that you limit alcohol to 2 drinks per day for men and 1 drink per day for women, just because of that link there. And then fasts, I really should have put fasts under both encourage and limit, because again, fasts are one of those that we give a really bad rep to. They have a bad reputation, but they aren't that horrible for us. In fact, they're a major source of our energy again. And some vitamins have to link on to fat to be put through the bloodstream. So they're actually somewhat important, but again, we want to get our fats from unsaturated versus saturated sources. So unsaturated fats are anything that's liquid at room temperature. So liquid or kind of mostly liquid, because we know our fats like to congeal. So these are things, monosaturated fats are things like vegetable oils. So canola, olive, and peanut oils are the monosaturated fats. And then polysaturated fats are, again, our vegetable oils, but then also seafood. So that's where we want to get the majority of our fats from. And then saturated fats are those that we're supposed to really be careful with and limit. And those come from animal sources, so things like red meat, poultry, or any meat, poultry, some dairy products, butter, our favorite, right, butter, and things like that. And those are solid at room temperature. So when we have to cut the big fatty side off of our steak, we know that that's probably not a great thing. And that, again, segues us into meat. You want to make sure that you're limiting the amount of red and processed meats that you're eating in your diet. And processed meats are things like lunch meats, bacon, and hot dogs and things like that. And finally, we don't really want to limit obesity, we want to avoid it and maintain a healthy weight. Obesity, again, has been linked to an increased risk for cancer. So we want to try to maintain a healthy weight throughout our lifetime. And wellness is our last tool that we can use to combat cancer. And wellness kind of covers all the psychological aspects. A big approach now is the holistic approach, where we work, mind, body, and spirit work together. So you know that if you're stressed out, you usually get sick, right? If we're stressed out, we're not feeling as well. We get that cold, we get the flu. So we know that there's a connection there. And the same thing, if you're not feeling well, you get kind of stressed, right? So these work together, they're combined. So we want to make sure that we're taking a holistic approach to health and being well, mind, body, and spirit. And a way we can do this is through educating ourselves. I'm completely against the idea that ignorance is bliss. It's not true, right? So ignorance is not bliss. Education is what can help us empower ourselves to kind of overcome some of these stressors in life. So if you're worried about something that's cancer related, that's why all of you are here, right? To learn about what you can do to solve that problem or to help counteract that problem. It empowers you. Social support is another big one, and we hear a lot in Thrive and at the program about how 2 years out, 3 years out, family members and friends are unfortunately ready to be done with cancer. They're scared. They don't want to hear about cancer anymore because they were scared when it happened to you. So that social support can sometimes be hard to find. So going out and joining a group that's supportive is really important. And we all know that social support is a huge indicator of our quality of life and wellness. And then finally, stress management. Everyone in today's society is stressed, so having added stressors like these health conditions just adds to that. So managing that stress is really important. Again, educating yourself on coping skills, breathing techniques that you can use to kind of minimize your stress, and other ways that you can manage anxiety and stress are part of that wellness component. So I told you a lot in the last 10 or 15 minutes. What does this all mean? Well, first of all, we saw that it can decrease our fatigue. So fatigue is the #1 symptom that I see anyway with cancer survivors. They're tired. And it's not the fatigue that goes away in 5 hours or 2 days. It's the fatigue that's with someone for 8 months. And that gets tiring in itself. It's that vicious cycle. So these 3 components can help us fight that fatigue. And with decreased fatigue, we also get increased energy. It's amazing to me that you can exercise and have increased energy. That doesn't even make sense, does it? You go out and you run 2 miles and you feel better? That sounds wrong, but it's right. Don't worry, it's right. So when you start getting into this habit, you start increasing your energy levels. Your body has to adapt to this stress of exercise, and so it becomes more effective and efficient, and your energy levels increase. Quality of life also has increased because you feel better. You're able to go out and do things that you weren't able to do before. You're surviving and you're thriving. And finally, you've made lifestyle changes. You've created habits No longer are you just sitting in front of the couch being a couch potato. Now we've got some healthy habits that are going to stick with us, hopefully. And empowerment. You're in control. There's a lot of times, I'm sure in the last few years, where you haven't felt in control. This is the day where you take back that control over your life. You start becoming the one that makes the differences in your life. You can't rely on the physician because he can't be there every day, he or she can't be there every day, making sure that you're exercising, making sure that you're well. So you have to take it into your own hands and do that, and you can. And so, of course, I can't get through all of this without a shameless plug of my own program. So Mercy has a Thrive Cancer Fitness and Wellness program. And it was funded originally by the Lance Armstrong Foundation and the Cedar Rapids Community Foundation. And the program actually has 4 components. It's an 8-week program where we focus on education, nutrition, exercise, and wellness. So all of those things I just spoke about. There is a commitment cost of $100. However, it's an 8-week program. If you complete the program within 10 weeks, you're completely refunded that money, so essentially it's free. And why we even charged $100 is because we found people are a lot more motivated when they pay $100 at the beginning. It's really strange. And it's like Christmas when you get it back in the end. So what we do is we set you up with a personal trainer. You'll do a pre-assessment, which means they just take baseline measurements. They collect that data that we were talking about earlier for you. And they also listen to your goals, and they help design an exercise prescription for you. And then for the next 8 weeks, 3 times a week for 30 minutes, you meet with that personal trainer and you go through that exercise prescription. So that's 24 sessions with the personal trainer. If you go to a gym in Cedar Rapids and get 24 sessions with the personal trainer, it's going to be over $1,000. And this program is free. Nutrition is another, and by the way, we also do a post-assessment so you can see those results, right? Nutrition is another aspect of our program. You meet with an oncology certified dietitian at least twice during the program. She'll meet with you more often if you're interested in that. And she talks about small changes that you can make in your diet that reflect big time in your lifestyle. So she's really great about making realistic changes. And then wellness, we actually have a free wellness calendar that's open to all cancer survivors, regardless if they're in our program or not. And I've put copies in the back as well as a sign-up sheet if you're interested in getting that. And that includes things like yoga, stress management techniques. We talk about lymphedema and have some lymphedema training, nutrition, a lot of different ideas. We do music therapy, art therapy, support groups. So it changes monthly, and we kind of are experimenting to see what people are interested in right now. And we're doing about 4 activities a month. So that you can pick up that in the back. And again, it's free and open to all cancer survivors and their family members. So I would encourage you to pick that up. And you do have to register, but that's just so I know how many people are coming. And education, we do some education through our wellness calendar, but then we also educate you if you're at risk for lymphedema or have some bone health concerns. We send you to an occupational therapist or a physical therapist for some education as well. So that's my shameless plug. Thank you for sitting through that. And finally, I just wanted to attach some other resources to this, so you should have that hopefully on your slides there. But sparkpeople.com is a website, and it provides a lot of exercises that you can do at home. Again, there's no cookie cutter recipe, so you're going to have to figure out which exercise you enjoy and work for you and utilize those. It can also set you up with a nutrition plan. It will send you recipes weekly. It'll send you updates weekly on some things that you should be doing, little reminders, like how are you drinking your water today, things like that. www.cancer.org, this right here, there's a survivors during and after treatment. It's kind of like a brochure or a guidebook, really, and it talks about a number of things, including exercise and nutrition, really beneficial. It also talks about social supports and resources that you can utilize. Cancer Fitness is a book by Anna L. Schwartz, and she's promoted by Lance Armstrong, and she just talks a lot about the surviving after cancer. And then again, shameless plug, that's my program at the bottom, if you're interested. But there's a lot of good resources on the internet, and at the library. There's a ton of books on exercises, and you can look at those for different generations too. There's exercise for older adults or different age groups as well. So I encourage you to use other resources as well. And that's it.